Boban Marjanović is the Serbian center that currently plays for the Dallas Mavericks. Standing at 7 foot 4 inches, he's one of the 10 tallest players in the history of the NBA and can dunk without jumping. Here are the 10 things you might not know about Boban. Largest hands in NBA history that inspired a Reddit thread. Bobby has enormous hands, which shouldn't come as a surprise for a 7'4" guy. His mitts are larger than Shaq's and Giannis's, who come in at number 2 and 3, and some other notable stars like Kawhi and MJ. Boban's hands are so large that he has a problem handling a normal smartphone, and that's why he uses an iPad as a phone, just because it fits his hands better. Boban's hands are the inspiration for a hilarious Reddit thread named Boban Holding Things, where everyday items look incredibly funny curled under Bobby's huge finger. His parents aren't tall. Just like George Murasan, the tallest man who ever played in the NBA, Boban doesn't have tall parents. Murasan reached 7'7" because of pituitary gland disorder, and why Boban got tall is a mystery even to him. His sister is more on the short side. His parents are only 5'6" and 5'9", which isn't even close to his height of 7'4". Supposedly, his grandfather was a pretty big man as well, but Boban likes to joke that he's from another planet and that he'll simply fly away once his career is done. He has a shoe size 19, or 53 if you are European, but doesn't have any problem finding shoes. At least not anymore. Finding jeans that fit is a whole nother story. Top 10 of all time in player efficiency rating. The Player Efficiency Rating, PER, is a per-minute rating developed by ESPN columnist John Hollinger. In John's words, the PER sums up all a player's positive accomplishments, subtracts the negative accomplishments, and returns a per-minute rating of a player's performance. Now, if you remember Coach Pop's remark about Boban's selfishness after he scored 19 in 13 minutes, well, it's kind of true. Since he arrived in the NBA, Bobby has always put up very good numbers in limited playing time. Considering PER is measured per minute, Boban ranks extremely high in this category, and at one point in 2018, he had the highest PER in history of the NBA. Some guys that you might have heard before, like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, or Anthony Davis, all had lower PER than Bobby. Since then, his PER dropped a little and now is tied with Wilt Chamberlain at number 6. It's only analytics, and some people believe analytics is for people who couldn't get girls in high school. We don't know about John Hollinger's dating history, but we know Boban is super efficient when he gets on the court. If only he would get more minutes. Boban began his pro career at the age of 14, already 6'10". Some basketball players grow up loving the game and were so consumed by it that they eventually ended up in the NBA. Some others grew up extremely tall, so basketball seemed like a logical choice. You can kind of guess that Boban belongs to the second group, and his preferred sport was actually volleyball, where I'm sure he would also excel. However, he grew up in a small village with a population of only 3,000 people, and there was no volleyball youth club, so he could only play basketball. By the time he was 14, he was already 6'10" and signed his professional contract in 2003 with Hemofarm. In the same year, Darko Milicic played for the club and got drafted with the second pick by the Pistons. Bobby had his professional debut in 2006, and since then, he played for 14 different teams. Greg Popovich made him take a bigger contract. After Boban scored 19 points in just 13 minutes of playing time, Coach Pop called him the most selfish player he'd ever seen. Of course, it was a joke from Pop, who loved Boban dearly and has nothing but the best to say about the Serbian big man. The feeling was mutual, and Boban, being the loyal guy that he is, seriously considered to turn down the $21 million offer from the Pistons, even though he knew the Spurs can't offer him as much. Popovich, who himself is of Serbian descent, then urged Boban to sign the deal and secure his future. "We love you, but get your ass out of here. $21 million is different than $3 million, Pop said to Boban, who felt bad, but eventually signed the deal with the Pistons. Biggest rejection in life from a Russian club. In 2010, Marjanović signed a 3-year contract for CSK, a European powerhouse and one of Europe's richest clubs. The club signed him to the insistence of Dusan Vujović, Serbian head coach. When Vujović got sacked, Boban's position in the club also deteriorated. He wasn't in the club's immediate plans and was loaned to Zalgiris, where he didn't see much playing time. Next season, he got traded to Nizhny Novgorod, another Russian club. He didn't play much there as well, and when he asked why, they told him they made a mistake signing him and that he wasn't good enough to play. It was the hardest moment in Boban's young career, and he left the team after only half a season. Best friend with Tobias Harris. In the NBA, your teammates are like your family. You play together, travel together, and spend most of the year with them, more than your actual family. That's why the NBA often yields strong bonds between teammates, far greater than the average colleague-to-colleague relationships. LeBron and Dwayne Wade's brotherhood first comes to mind, and so does Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan's. But maybe the biggest bromance and the most unusual one is between Boban and Tobias Harris. Their relationship started in Detroit, where Boban signed a 3-year deal in 2016. After they both got traded to the Clippers, the already solid bond between Marjanović and Harris grew even more, and embedded with spontaneity and humor, it began to attract media attention. With the help of social networks, everything grew into a mini phenomenon called Bobby and Toby. Bobby and Toby then managed to survive another trade and were the package deal sent to the 76ers, and the social media antics continued. After Kawhi killed their title hopes, Tobias was offered a maximum deal, and Boban was forced to move on without his best friend. He managed just fine though, and is now trolling Luka Doncic in Dallas, and since everything is bigger in Texas, Boban fits right in. Had an acting role in John Wick 3. Boban's popularity grew immensely when he moved to America, so much so that he ended up in a Hollywood film acting alongside Keanu Reeves. John Wick director Chad Stahelski was inspired by the film Game of Death with Bruce Lee, in which Bruce Lee gets into a fight with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the Lakers legend. He needed an extremely tall guy to fight Keanu, but the castings did not yield results. One of the producers, who was a big NBA fan, told Stahelski that he needs Boban for this role. The director answered, "Great, but what is Boban?" The producer then played Bobby's YouTube videos to the director, who decided to give him a chance. Boban then traveled to New York and met with the stunt team and impressed the action scene coordinators. After a few days, he rehearsed the text with Keanu Reeves, and after a few more days, he was already flipping through books in the library with the famous actor. 3-time Serbian League MVP, EuroLeague first team. European basketball is much more suited for Boban's size and skill set. The floor is smaller, and there is no 3-second rule, so Boban can be parked underneath a basket the whole game, where he dominates with his size and length. But it's not all height either, as Boban has a great feel for the game and an exceptionally soft touch for a man that big. This enables him to create all kinds of problems for defenses, either with efficient finishing in the paint, offensive rebounding, or passing. The fantastic all-around play made Boban the best player in Serbia, as he had won Serbian League MVP for 3 years in a row before he moved to the NBA in 2015. In his last EuroLeague season, he posted the biggest performance index rating in the history of the competition at 25.67. For comparison, Luka Doncic was the EuroLeague MVP in 2018, only had 21.5 performance index rating. Boban eats soup every day. One of the biggest cliches for tall people is hearing, "How's the weather up there?" along with the inevitable, "How tall are you?" What are they feeding you? Comes in at third place. Boban is 7'4". The weather up there is fine, and they are feeding him soup every day. Eating soup is an old Serbian tradition, and it's common to eat soup before every big meal, especially during family gatherings. Boban got used to this, and he still eats soup every day, and chicken noodle soup is his favorite. He doesn't have much of a sweet tooth, and that's why he's able to stay ripped and weigh below 300 pounds, an impressive feat for someone of his stature.